hours at night, searching for justice. Blind justice. A guardian devil. I was 12 years old. I had lost my sight, but I got something back in return. My remaining 4 senses functioned with superhuman sharpness. I could hear a whisper a block away, but the most amazing of all was a kind of radar sense. Soon the world will know the truth.
There is no proof that Daredevil even exists.
That one man can make a difference.
What do you want? Justice.
Matt Murdock.
Nice to meet you.
I didn't get your name.
I didn't give it.
Sure you don't want to tell me your name?
My name's Electra. I have to go. My bodyguard is here.
Your bodyguard? In the city ruled by fear.
Kingpin just doesn't kill you. He killed your whole family.
One man will face his greatest challenge in bullseye. Death is mine.
Is that really necessary?
Necessary? No. It was fun. And a new hero will be born.
Time to give the devil his due.
How do you kill a man without fear? We're putting the fear in him.
New York is not a safe place tonight.
I have to go. I got work to do.
How am I going to find you?
I'll find you.
Daredevil.
Is there anything else?
Yeah. I want a costume.
God, I miss those early 2000 superhero movie trailers. I mean, that's the perfect definition of a superhero movie trailer back in the day. I mean, you got, you know, the quick shots of all the characters. You got all the notable names that you see in there. I mean, you got those little scenes, like the scene where Joe Pantoliano's throwing the lighter on the ground and it spells out DD. I mean, stuff like that is just so cheesy and so corny, but in kind of a way. And the music, the soundtrack too. I mean, Evanescence singing "Wake Me Up Inside." Like, it's cheesy, it's corny, but I kind of miss that with superhero movies nowadays. But even though superhero movies are clearly a lot better than this film is, I still miss those days when we had trailers like that. But Daredevil, directed by hack director Mark Steven Johnson, who later destroyed Ghost Rider, and starred Ben Affleck, pre-director era and pre-Gigli career breakdown, which we'll get to that one later on in the year, in the title role. Fate deals young orphan Matt Murdock, played by Ben Affleck, a strange hand when he is doused with hazardous waste. The accident leaves Matt blind, but also gives him a heightened radar sense that allows him to see far better than any man. Years later, Murdock has grown into the man and has become a respected criminal attorney. But after he's done his day job, Matt takes on a secret identity known as the Man Without Fear, Daredevil, the masked avenger that patrols the neighborhood of Hell's Kitchen and New York City to combat the injustice that he could not tackle in the courtroom. He faces his greatest battle, Wilson Fisk, a.k.a. the Kingpin, played by Michael Clark Duncan, and his hired Bullseye, played by Colin Farrell, and teams up with Elektra, played by Jennifer Garner, to take out the bad guys. The movie takes a lot of elements from Frank Miller's Daredevil run, The Man Without Fear, and it does have a lot of problems to it. Very rarely does this movie have anything that makes it worth watching when you really look at it. I was honestly really bored watching this movie because nothing really goes on in this film. I mean, Ben Affleck is so bland in this movie, and when he's Daredevil, he's not any better. Like, his Matt Murdock's pretty bland. His Daredevil is somehow even worse. Like, the costume even really doesn't sell me. I mean, I get it. It's the same costume from the comics, but when they bring it to life, it just looks terrible. And you see why the original X-Men movies didn't bring, like, Wolverine's costume into the movies, because it really would have looked really stupid back then. Nowadays, with Deadpool and Wolverine on the horizon, they could actually make it look cool in that sense. But back then, no, they really wouldn't do. It really did not work back then, and it probably wouldn't have worked nowadays if you tried to do that. But I mean, the new Daredevil is much better. But we'll delve more into that in just a second. But Jennifer Garner's Elektra looks badass, but as a character, she's pretty bland. She's really poorly developed, and you can't really get invested into that character so much. And it really baffles me why Tom Rothman looked at this movie's success and said, you know what we need to do next? Not a Daredevil sequel. Let's give Jennifer Garner a spin-off with her film. I mean, maybe I get why, because she was on Alias and she was one of the hottest TV stars on the planet at that point, both in a sense of superstardom and also in terms of sexuality. Because man, this was around the time that Alias aired after the Super Bowl. If you ever watch that episode, the way that begins, it's just like, man, that's just like that was her peak hotness to me, in my opinion. But but they said give her a spin-off movie, and unfortunately, the film did not. That film was even worse than this, but we'll have to wait for a while to get to that one. But trust me, I will have a lot to say about it, because that movie holds some not-so-great memories for me. But continuing on, Colin Farrell's Bullseye is supposed to be this badass assassin, but he's very cartoonish in this. I mean, you never take him seriously as a bad guy. I don't care if he never misses a shot. I would have never found this guy threatening whatsoever. I would have been just laughing at him. It's just like, hey, at least I'm going to die laughing at your sorry ass. Surprisingly, the only person I thought actually worked in this film was Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin. Okay, yeah, Kingpin is supposed to be white, but Michael Clark Duncan really captured more of that character he was supposed to play more than any other character in this film. Yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio was great on the Marvel show that came out a couple years later, but Clark Duncan really does give it his all, and I thought he was the only character in this movie that I actually did like, and he's the bad guy. And it just proves you can change a character's race around, a gender or two, if you have to, and get the right actor. If you get the right actor to do it, chances are you're going to put out a really good product too, and at least in a performance spectrum, I mean. But the padding scenes in between the action sequences in the story feel really lazy and uninspired. There's nothing in these scenes that keep you invested whatsoever, and I'm just waiting for the next action scene to begin. And even when that happens, it's really boring and very predictable. Almost every single one of these things we've seen done to death so many times in other movies and TV shows. Even the villain's motivation isn't really all that thought out. I mean, I don't even know what real plan he even had. The King, what did he really have to work with here? It's just like, when they finally reveal him, it's just like, you got to be kidding me. That's the most blandest, most mediocre plan I've ever seen. I mean, you feel like Steve on American Dad when Roger's about to beat up Stan, and Stan just hits him with a chair, and you're just looking at it, and Steve was just like, that was your plan? Like, I really felt like that. It's just like, that was really it? It's just like, I'm not going to reveal what it is, but once they reveal it, it feels really repetitive, and it's been done to death numerous times. And yes, I know that I'm mostly talking about the theatrical version, and I know there's a director's cut version, but yeah, it may be a slight improvement over the theatrical version, but is that really all you want, is a slight improvement? How about an actual good movie revolving around this character? This was the first real, I don't want to say straight up bomb, but like, it was the first real underperformer for Marvel once they finally got back on track with making movies and had a major studio behind it with X-Men and Spider-Man. This was the first one that really was a misfire in the long sense. I mean, they had a strong track record going up to that point with X-Men and Spider-Man, and then you have this. There was a little bit of a reprieve with X-Men 2, but then came cratering down again with Hulk after that. But we've still got a lot of Marvel to get to in 2003, but there is potential for a great Daredevil movie, but they just didn't deliver on any of the potential that they had. They went to a hack director who never read Deadpool in his life. Just make a bland origin story. Make another movie that's like Batman. Like don't even try to do anything creative or new with it. You know, Spider-Man just came out. I mean, you couldn't have looked at Spider-Man and said, "Hey, why don't we do a movie like that and actually get somebody to actually make it good?" No, we're not going to do that. But we're just going to get a bland origin story, and that's what Daredevil is. A lot of potential, but it just leaves you very disappointed by the end. A bad film, but trust me, it's going to get worse when we look at some of the other Marvel films coming up.
Even now I can feel it, buried somewhere deep inside, watching me, waiting. But you know what scares me the most? When I can't fight it anymore, when it takes over, when I totally lose control. I like it.
how can you not be excited after a trailer like that? I mean, that trailer used to scare the bejesus out of me. I mean, when his eye turned green and it's just that straight look at that eye looking right at me, it was just like, I got uncomfortable watching that sometimes because, back in the day when you're online and you used to see these little trailers popping up out of nowhere, you'd be going on your website and all of a sudden the thing for a trailer for like a Death to Smoochie or in this case the Hulk would show up, and it used to scare the bejesus out of me because it just comes out of nowhere and it's just like, how can you not get excited for a movie like this? Oh, they found a way to make you really, really less optimistic about it when you see stuff like this in the next couple of trailers.
It's like a gambling list. It's already there. My son was and the world will not tolerate his existence. What did you do to me?
Mutated dogs. Really bad-looking mutated dogs. And, God, I wish that was the only thing I could say that's wrong with these trailers that leads you to the thing we're about to talk about here, but, it gets worse.
When you're left with no choice, I'm sending her a surprise visit from some friends of mine. When you're pushed too far, you're a pathetic freak. Don't just get even. You're making me angry. Get mad. I don't think you're gonna like me when I'm angry.
I don't even like you when you're not angry. This movie is, I think you know what it is, but let's talk about the story first. That is Eric Banner as Bruce Banner, a brilliant scientist with a cloudy past about his family who was involved in an accident in his laboratory causing him to become exposed to gamma radiation, and nanomedes, a tiny life form that is supposed to heal wounds, but has cooked everything with which they have made contact with. Confused and curious about his survival, Banner discovers that since the accident, when he becomes angry, he transforms into this giant green monster that we know as the Hulk, destroying everything in sight in an act of fury. Bruce's mysterious past and the answers to why the radiation has its effect becomes revealed to him as his birth father, David Banner, played by Nick Nolte, intervenes with hope and continues experimenting on him. It's funny, when I didn't see this movie at first for the longest time. It wasn't until the next Incredible Hulk movie came out 5 years later. The first time I saw it, I didn't think it was that terrible. But, once I saw the Edward Norton movie, I was just kind of like, okay, screw that last Hulk movie. That's how much I love The Incredible Hulk. But this gets worse and worse every time I see it. This is, without a doubt, one of the worst Marvel movies ever made. It takes a badass character in the Hulk and just turns him into a pussy. Like, he is such a cowardly mess of a character in this film, and it's just, let's go through the problems of the film. One of them starts off with the film focusing on discovering more of who the Hulk is, rather than having him do what he does best. I swear to God, there are multiple scenes in this movie that delve more into the story of Bruce Banner and the Hulk than there are scenes of the Hulk tearing up shit like he's supposed to do. I mean, when will people learn that we don't care about these movie monsters having backstories? That we don't, is like, do we really need to have the backstories of people like Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Leatherface, or Michael Myers? No. Because once you add those elements in there and how they become these menaces, they aren't scary anymore. It's like with Maleficent. I mean, they took one of the badass Disney villains and made a movie where they give you the backstory, and it's just like, well, now you just made her more of a complicated character because you set her up as a good guy at first, and now, like what happens? Like, what's the point? And here it happens with the Hulk, and they come up with a stupid storyline involving Bruce's dad playing a part of why he keeps turning into the Hulk, which adds more plot holes to the story, even when it gets to the end of the movie, where they have this big climax where Bruce has to fight his dad, and his dad gets all these superpowers and just has to become this big bloated CG mess. And speaking of CG messes, you thought those dogs were bad? This entire movie has some of the worst visual effects I've ever seen in a movie. I mean, the transformations of the Hulk are so awful in this movie. You can't take them seriously at all. This is 2003. I get it. Technology has advanced in the 20-plus years since then, but I know they could do visual effects better than this. Hell, I could do visual effects better than this. I have no way of doing visual effects, but I can tell you right now, I know how to do them better than anything that they pulled off in this movie. That's how bad this movie is. If there's one thing that I can give to the film's credit, it's the casting. Some of the casting is not bad. Like, Eric Bana's not bad as Bruce Banner. Jennifer Connelly's not bad as Betty Ross. Sam Elliott's not bad as the Thunderbolt Ross. They're playing their parts okay, but the problem is they're not given a whole lot to do. There's more exposition going on in this film than there is an actual story, and that's the problem with the film. It's what Ang Lee was trying to do with it. He was trying to make a monster movie with a character who's not really a monster. He was trying to he tried to make the Hulk a miniaturized version of Godzilla, but the Hulk is not that kind of a threat. He wants to explore more of the story, but that's not what people go to these movies to see. And leave it to the Marvel Cinematic Universe to finally make Hulk films or movies with the Hulk that actually give him a storyline where he can also be a badass as well. You have to have a mixture of both here with the character of the Hulk. You can make a film where you go into the backstory of the Hulk, but you have to have a story. You have to also have it where the Hulk does what the Hulk does best. And when he does it in this movie, it's very little on. It's like in a span of 10-15 minutes of the whole movie towards the end. That's it. This is a film that's over 2 hours long. This thing cost $137 million to make, and this is the best they can come up with. And I'm not going to blame Ang Lee for this. I think he was just brought in to be essentially a director for hire. I think he was in a bad situation like what John Woo was when, he made Face Off, and then they brought him in to do Mission Impossible 2, and he kind of ruined his career with that. But, at least the difference between John Woo and Ang Lee is that Ang Lee, this wasn't much of a thing that killed his career. It was more of a blemish, because as soon as he got off of this film and started making great films again, like Brokeback Mountain and Life of Pi, you start to realize maybe he wasn't the problem with the Hulk after all. Maybe he just was a guy that should not have been attached to this movie whatsoever. And sadly, it's a problem that we're seeing a lot more nowadays with all these sequels coming in here, with all these different directors who have never directed a blockbuster movie and should have not been in that situation in the first place. I'm looking at the guy from Twisters who did Minari. He did a independent film, and Universal said, we want to give you $100 million to make a sequel that nobody is asking for, but, hey, Jurassic World was a success with a director who had never touched a blockbuster before, so why can't we do it here? But there's a difference, though. Jurassic Park has more of a lasting legacy than freaking Twisters does. But I'm going off of a completely different subject altogether. But the bottom line here is that Ang Lee's Hulk is a mess. It's one of the worst superhero movies ever made. Honestly, if you want to see the true versions of how the Hulk should be, there's the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk, there's the Avengers movies, there's the Thor Ragnarok. That's the Hulk. This is not. So, plain and simple, this is just not the Hulk.
Read to me, Larry.
What?
Oh, come on, Larry. Read to him.
I got nothing here.
You don't have a book.
For well over a century, the adventurous flavor of Tabasco sauce has fired up generations of thrill seekers. Okay?
It was good.
This may be a good time to suggest that you not allow the seeds of cruel hope to sprout in your soul.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds beautiful.
It means you're not my type. Good night.
Good night.
New, our best Charmin ever. Charmin Ultra Double Roll.
And that right there was pretty much all the best stuff from the movie. Pretty much the stuff that I kind of chuckled at, but chuckle is the highest mark of laughter I got from this. This is a film that is notoriously bad for many different reasons, but just reading the plot alone, the plot alone, I think, pretty much sums up why this movie is bad. You have Gigli, played by Ben Affleck, who's a lowly and inept hitman who's assigned a job by the mob to kidnap an intellectually disabled brother of a California district attorney, played by Justin Bertha, the guy who kept getting kidnapped in the Hangover movies, by the way. Gigli abducts the brother from his mental hospital and holds him hostage in his apartment, and then Ricky, a lesbian assassin, played by Jennifer Lopez, is sent to oversee Gigli's job and make sure he doesn't screw it up. Comedic hijinks ensue as the two go on the lam and start to fall in love, even though she's a lesbian and it's one of those movies where poorly represents gay and lesbians. There was that time during around this time period when very rarely did you get a positive gay or lesbian character in a number of different things. Will and Grace had the mixture of kind of both, and then there were just these movies and TV shows that were just kind of do the typical stereotypes. And here's an example of a movie that just is just a disastrous mess on so many levels. I mean, from the production standpoint, Halle Berry was initially going to be the lead in this, but she turned it down to do X-Men 2. And then Jennifer Lopez got $12 million to do the film. And then they shot this in December of 2001. And then the original ending was supposed to be that Gigli was supposed to get killed, but negative responses from a test screening basically forced the film to be reshot and re-edited. And you know how that goes, because, I mean, this is and then, of course, you have the fact that Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez were a couple at this time. Remember, this was the time when they said that they wanted to do the remake of Casablanca, and then they said, you're out of your... And then the people behind Casablanca said, you're out of your fucking mind if we're going to let you do that, especially after this. And then, just the whole idea of this movie is so stupid. It's a stupid film that just... Like, you have Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez, who were a couple at the time. And yet, their chemistry in this movie is abysmal. I could not believe how bad their chemistry is in this movie. When they're together, they are together in real life at this point. Like, how do you not have a relationship in real life that works on the big screen as well? It baffles me. And what's even more baffling about this, guess how much the budget for this movie was? I just looked at this. $75.6 million. Where did that money go? I mean, who else is in this movie? Besides Al Pacino and Christopher Walken. You got 2 Oscar winners there. In fact, Al Pacino you barely even see in the film, so why the hell is he even in this? Christopher Walken does what Christopher Walken does, but other than that, though, where did $75 million go? Like, where did all that money go? I mean, okay, let's take into account Jennifer Lopez's $12 million. That's still $63 million. Where did $63 million go? Just like... And the sad part is, it's the last thing Martin Brest ever directed, too. Remember, this is the guy that did Beverly Hills Cop. This is the guy that directed Midnight Run. This is the guy that directed Son of a Woman. And his career just ended after this. Like, that's how bad this movie was. This is like Ben Affleck's Ishtar. It was a thing that killed his career for a number of years. Like, we're going to get to some movies that were not big hits from him, movies that had big budgets behind them, films that just made you go like, what the hell were you thinking when you decided to do this? Wait until we get to Surviving Christmas. That's a hell of a doozy right there. But there is a positive to this whole thing, because let's be honest, if Ben Affleck didn't make this movie, he would have probably never become the director that he became. I mean, starting his career renaissance 3 years after this. I mean, you know, it started off with Hollywoodland, which is a movie that we'll get to these movies eventually. But Hollywoodland, I thought, was a good start in the right direction. Then he directs Gone Baby Gone. He shows what he can do as a director there. Then he does The Town, a great film, and then he does Argo, which gets him a Best Picture win at the Oscars. And you know, his career slowly but surely is back on the rise again after that. But there really was a point when this film came out that everyone thought that his career was over. I mean, he already had an Oscar for writing Good Will Hunting, so I don't think anybody would have been really that surprised if his career did come to an end after that. But like I said, if it wasn't for this, he wouldn't have become the director that we know him to be, a great director overall. I mean, look at what he just did with Air last year. I mean, this is a guy that still has a lot of talent to him. And, you know, Jennifer Lopez is not a bad actress. I mean, these are two people that are more than capable of starring in good movies and showing that they have the ability to act. But in this case, no, this is just a sloppy mess of a film that was just bad from the get-go, and it was just doomed on arrival. Keep in mind, really, we should have known right off the bat that this thing was bad, because it started in late 2001 and didn't get released until August of 2003. For a film like this that's not a blockbuster caliber movie, take the budget out of it. Like, if it was, you wouldn't be waiting that long to put this movie out in theaters like this. It's a mess of a film. It's one of the worst movies ever made for a good reason. It's a film that nearly killed the career of Ben Affleck and did kill the career of Martin Brest, the director, and it was just a colossal failure on so many levels. What more do I gotta say? Freaking Gigli, man. Avoid it like the plague.
Life was all about her family, her charities, and her friends. But all of that is about to end. Controversy is erupting over the new CD by gangster rap star Dr. S.
Dr. S. in person. We can work together.
To work.
Marci cares. Marci loves. Marci saved her father's life. chance to clean up your act.
Appear as a gangster.
Gangsta.
Yeah! Welcome to our auction to benefit Quick Fit Up. Children with no feeling in their arms.
This is rap.
That means bad.
Who knew?
You're out of your element, babe, because you're not real.
If I can get real, will you sincerely apologize?
What you gonna do? You gonna rap first?
Say, hi, I'm so real. Let me tell you how I feel. I'm just not very musical, although I do love Lion King.
Oh my god, that was horrible. So in this movie, Lisa Kudrow stars as Marci X, a spoiled Jewish-American princess who's forced to take control of her father, Ben's hardcore rap label, Felony Assault, when he suffers a stress-induced heart attack due to the controversy surrounding the label's release of Shoot Your Teacher by Dr. S. To rescue her father's plummeting stock, Marci attempts to tone down the rapper's bad boy image, the rapper being played by Damon Wayans. Over time, the unlikely pair falls in love, and just as conservative Senator Mary Ellen Sprinkle, played by Christina Baranski, vows to banish Dr. S and his offensive lyrics from the airways forever. I could not believe how bad this movie was. I mean, Richard Benjamin's made a lot of good movies. He's made some good films that have been really good, like some movies like My Favorite Year. You know, he made that film. I like The Money Pit. It's a silly movie, but a fun film nonetheless. He also did Mermaids. He did stuff like Mrs. Winterbourne. But then he makes those movies where you go, what the hell were you thinking? Like Milk Money, the heartfelt story about these three young kids whose main goal in the entire movie is to go to the big city, hire a prostitute, and see her naked. That's literally the plot of that movie. And but as bad as that is, this is even worse. And the funny thing is, we talked about Head of State. Guess who was originally offered the role of the Dr. S in this movie? Chris Rock. He turned it down as he did not like the script, and Damon Wayans is probably thanking him for that, but he's also probably thinking to himself, go f*** yourself for making me do this shit. And this is, I mean, those jokes alone should be everything that says how bad this movie is. And I forgot to mention, this is produced by Scott Rudin. He's done a ton of movies that we like. You know, No Country for Old Men, South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, Team America, World Police, The Addams Family movies. Speaking of The Addams Family movies, Paul Rudnick, the writer of those movies, and In and Out, wrote this script. Like, clearly you see the problem here. You got all these older white people trying to write a movie that's supposed to appeal to a mix of mostly a black demographic, because you literally have to have a lot of stuff in this movie centering around this black rapper and his fan base. And like, Shoot Your Teacher, like, that's the kind of stuff that would be seen on a Nickelodeon kids TV show, a live action TV show, or a Disney Channel live action show. Like, this is pathetic. This is absolutely pathetic, and everything about this movie is not only offensive to black people, it's offensive to white people, it's offensive to everybody. Everybody is offended, but it should be offended by this movie, because every single portrayal in this movie is probably the most stereotypical, the most blandest, the most cringiest comedy you will ever see in your life. Like, it's amazing that Richard Benjamin still had a career after this. In fact, I mean, okay, technically not the best, not a great career overall, but he did at least rebound a year later with The Goodbye Girl, the remake of The Goodbye Girl for TNT. But other than that, though, it's just like, this is the thing that probably killed his career overall. And it's just like, it's baffling how Lisa Kudrow and Damon Wayans still had careers after this. Lisa Kudrow in particular, because Lisa Kudrow, you know, when she made stuff outside of Friends, she was at least smart enough to know what films she would be involved in, and not just take a bland script in general. Like, you know, yeah, there'd be an Analyze That here and there, but she was also in the first Analyze This. She was in stuff like The Opposite of Sex, you know. She's in Wonderland, that comes out a little bit later on in the year. I mean, she knows how to pick her movies, and then she says, I'll take this film, and it's one that literally could have killed her career. And like, I bet you when she was on Friends, and, you know, David Schwimmer and Matt LeBlanc and Matthew Perry were all talking about who had the worst movie come out around that time period, at least she can easily say, I win, because here's this garbage movie that is so... It's a mess. It's an unbelievable mess of a film that nobody should have said yes to. And the fact that somebody put $20 million in this movie, for a $20 million movie, which is not that big of a budget for this, it just feels like they wasted so much money on this, thinking that this was going to be a success, and it just was not. It was a film that was such a colossal failure on so many levels. It's almost as bad as Soul Plane. That's how bad this movie is. And Soul Plane's pretty bad, but at least Soul Plane had actors whose careers rebounded nicely since then. This film feels like a film that just was made by tone-deaf people. This feels like a movie made by a marketing campaign. Like, you know how commercials nowadays feel like they're so bland and clearly have no idea how to market to specific audiences? That's how this movie feels like. This movie feels like a film that was made by a committee of what specific groups will like in a film, and what's the most inoffensive comedy we can do, but which also may be seen as offensive. Like, it's like they took all those different elements and just put it into this film, and the end result is a colossal failure on so many levels. This is not only one of the worst movies of the year, but one of the worst comedies ever made. This thing makes Malibu's Most Wanted and Head of State and Bringing Down the House look like frickin' masterpieces compared to this garbage right here. And like I said, this is the bottom of the barrel for that category of movies where you have these white comedians and white people in general trying to be black, and this is the bottom of the barrel. This is the absolute worst of the worst, and it's not even close.
6 hours ago, I was ready to give anything for you. Do you know what's changed in the last 6 hours? Nothing.
You are really ready to die for this man.
You don't think you're coming back?
I'm scared, Trent.
So am I. If she has to, she'll kill every one of us. She's in love. Believe it.
Everything that has a beginning has an end.
Rated R starts Wednesday, November 5th.
Yeah, everything that has a beginning should have an end, and that should have been the first Matrix movie, because, let's be honest, there was no reason why we needed Matrix sequels. I mean, the first film wrapped it up in a nice film, and yeah, the Matrix Reloaded had some cool stuff in it too, but by this point in the series, you started to realize that this was the reason why they should not have made this a trilogy. In the explosive final chapter of the Matrix trilogy, Neo, Morpheus, and Trinity battle to defend Zion, the last real-world city, against the onslaught of the machines that have enslaved the human race. And now as Neo learns more about his heroic powers, including the ability to see the codes of things and the people, he faces the consequences of the choices made in the Matrix Reloaded. Not much more I can say about this one, except it's garbage. This is 100% freaking garbage. There is no reason for this to become a trilogy, and it's perfectly clear that the Wachowskis had no idea how to make this a proper trilogy. They saw how successful the first movie was, and Warner Brothers wanted more. They didn't have an idea for a trilogy, so they just said, screw it, just put some stuff on the wall and we'll see what happens. And like I said, The Matrix Reloaded at least had some redeemable qualities to it, the car chase scene, but as a sequel. But this is just a colossal misfire on so many levels, right down to the ending, serving no purpose whatsoever. There's nothing about this film that serves as an end to a great adventure. This isn't like Back to the Future Part 3, which was the last time they did a back-to-back sequel where they were wrapping everything up. No more movies after this. No, not in this movie. No. By the end of this, it was just like, thank God I don't have to deal with this anymore. And then nearly 20 years later, you get another movie, and that's just as bad too. Like, there's literally no reason to continue this series after the first movie. There's been nothing redeemable as far as a full film goes with any of these movies. Yeah, like I said, Reloaded had some cool stuff in it, and Revolution, and this one does have one scene in particular, the scene where the beginning of the final conflict with with Neo and Agent Smith, like when they're in the rain and all that. That was a cool scene. I'll give it that. But other than that, though, this thing can't even be decent. This is supposed to be the end of a trilogy, and there is nothing about this ending that feels serviceable, that feels like they want to wrap this up. It's clearly a ruse to make you be convinced that this was supposed to be the plan all along, that this was supposed to open the door up here. This is the equivalent of The Sopranos ending on a black screen, but The Sopranos was at least hoping that a movie was going to get made so they can wrap that up. But of course, James Gandolfini died, and that pretty much changed everything there. This is bad on a number of levels because they make the next movie, and it answers nothing of value whatsoever. Like this can't even be decent. It has its head so far it's up its own ass, thinking that it's this high and mighty and god tier adventure that everybody has been waiting for. Like this is supposed to be the cinematic opus of our time, and they've done nothing past the first movie that is remotely worth being a trilogy. You should have stopped after the first film, and that's it. That should have been the end of this, but nope. This is a massive dumpster fire on so many levels. Avoid it like the plague. Avoid these sequels like the plague. And, not surprisingly, the film did very poorly to at least close the door for the trilogy at that point. And then, like I said, they tried to continue it on afterward with the fourth film. And that sucks, too. And, hey, we're getting another one, too, with the guy who directed it with Drew Goddard. Yeah, good director. Have no reason to believe that movie's going to change anything that I've said before. Like, this first film should have been just one film, and that's it. Plain and simple, so.
This is the ancestral mansion of the Gracie family. It's a real fixer-upper. With a Victorian ballroom, secret passageways, spacious grounds with room for the whole family, and a mystery that has cursed the house for over 100 years. But no one told the Evers family.
Honey, you know they have dead people in the backyard. Stay on the ground. Can I stay on the ground, please?
Dark spirits from the grave, come forth.
Don't you make no dark spirits come out while I'm sitting there. Wait till I leave before the dark spirits come out.
The Haunted Mansion.
If that isn't Kelsey Grammer, that's a hell of a good impression. I swear that's him, but I don't know. It sounds like him, but you hear him in the trailer there, maybe. But this is the third, like I said, the third feature film adaptation based off of a theme park attraction from Disney World. The first one being the Country Bears, with the bigger one being the Pirates of the Caribbean, which left a lot of high anticipation for this one because, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean was an unexpected hit. Everyone thought it was going to do the same thing with this movie, and not so much. I mean, it wasn't a flop by any means necessary. It did make money, but it was not a hit critically, and eventually led to a reboot that is slightly better than this one, but even then, it's not that great. But in general, I mean, there's so much potential with the storyline here that you could do, but these movies haven't really worked with the film's advantages that they could take with the storyline here. And I think this one does it worse than the 2023 one, but that's just my personal take on it. You have Eddie Murphy playing a realtor who, along with his family, becomes trapped in the haunted mansion. And, of course, they come across all these different characters, including Terrence Stamp as the butler, Wallace Shawn as part of Coach's Horseman. Marsha Thompson plays his wife. Jennifer Tilly plays Madame Leota in this. And there are brief flashes of promise in here. There are moments in here that I did legitimately enjoy. Like, I like the production of this movie. Looks pretty damn good. I mean, the set designs are very good. Sometimes you get a good laugh here and there from Eddie Murphy, but even then, it's not really enough for me to say that it's a good movie by any means. I'll give the 2023 version this. There were more things about that one I remember about it, mostly from the visual aspect of it and from the storytelling development. I mean, I like those characters a lot more because they're played by great actors in general. I mean, in that one you had Owen Wilson, Danny DeVito, Tiffany Haddish, Rosario Dawson, Jamie Lee Curtis, you know, and even Jared Leto was the Hatbox Ghost. Was kind of cool to watch. But I mean, this year they were trying, but it just couldn't really get past those moments where you felt like there should have been so much more to it. I mean, they got the pieces here and there, but it just didn't really feel like they expanded on the story of the Haunted Mansion. At least with the 2023 version, they did things with that one. I forgot that Keith Stanfield was also in there too. He was one of the main guys in there, but But in that movie, they were at least trying, and I thought they succeeded more with expanding the story. Here, it's just, hey, here's these little flashes here and there. Like, here's the Hatbox Ghost. Here's the statues that sing to you. Like, here's all the things from the ride. And they don't really do anything of value with it. Like, there's not really much of a story given there, except for one that's pretty generic overall. And it just doesn't have that element that Pirates of the Caribbean had, where they have good talent involved, a better script involved, really, to make it work on its own. But here, it's not that they don't have the talent there. I probably should take that back. Rob Minkoff, who directed Stuart Little before this, of course he directed The Lion King. He's a good director, and this is written by David Birnbaum, who had a hit earlier in the month with Elf, which was a proof that was a much bigger success than anyone expected it to. But here, I don't know. The pieces just were there, but there's nothing there to really make this one stand out over a generic storyline here. Of all the three films based off the theme park attractions we've had up to this point, this is easily the weakest one of the bunch here. The Country Bears was at least a so bad it's good type of movie because of things like Christopher Walken's performance. And Pirates of the Caribbean really was something that really took a lot of people by surprise when it came out. With this, you thought that they were heading in the right direction, and the pieces just weren't there to make it a film that should work on its own. Like, even Eddie Murphy, as much as I thought he had some good moments here and there, he feels kind of wasted in this particular film. I mean, he doesn't really have a whole lot to do in this film except to just be the straight man in this crazy world that he's found himself in with his family. And, like, there's a subplot with his wife looking like somebody from the past, and it doesn't really go anywhere that you don't think it's going to go already, and it just, I don't know. The film itself just really was a major letdown. Like I said, if I had to choose between this and the 2023 version, the 2023 version would win, but just barely, though. Not much more to say about that one. That's The Haunted Mansion. So,
Season of sequels. Sean Connery is back in the most original adventure movie of the summer.
Well, it's about time.
The Wall Street Journal cheers. It's good fun.
And the game is on.
Connery still saves the day.
Perfect.
It's magnificent. Jeffrey Lyons raves. You're in for the time of your life.
Eyes open, boy.
LXG is the summer's smartest, most exhilarating action attraction.
Cheers.
The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, rated PG-13, now playing.
I mean, how much money did Sean Connery pay these people to put his name all over the trailer for that? I mean, every 5 seconds, it's Sean Connery this, Sean Connery that. Like, all the critical reviews are Sean Connery, like, he's the main focus of the film, which, I mean, it's more of an ensemble piece, but let me just put it this way. Sean Connery turned down the Matrix trilogy as well as playing Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Those would have given him $450 million altogether. And he said, you know, I'm not going to blow my opportunity in this one. I'm going to go to this one because I think this will be a profitable success. He agreed to this he was paid $17 million, a sum that left the filmmakers with little flexibility to track other high-profile stars, because if you look at the rest of the cast, you've got notable character actors or people that aren't as successful, like Peter Wilson from Lathem Nikita, Stuart Townsend, Shane West, Jason Fleming, Richard Roxburgh. I mean, there's not a lot of big names for a movie like this, which seems like an awesome concept in general, but man, not so much. So in the film, you have renowned adventurer Alan Quartermain, played by Connery, who leads a team of extraordinary figures with legendary powers to battle the technological terror of a madman known as the Phantom, played by Richard Roxburgh. The league comprises of seafarer and adventurer Captain Nemo, played by Nasruddin Shah, vampires Mina Harkin, played by Peter Wilson, vampirist Mina Harker, good lord, Mina Harker. I keep thinking of that cartoon that used to be on What a Cartoon on Cartoon Network, Mina and the Count. You got an invisible man named Rodney Skinner, played by Tony Curran, American Secret Service agent Tom Sawyer, the ageless and invincible Dorian Gray, played by Stuart Townsend, and the dangerous split personality of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, played by Jason Fleming. It's been said that Alan Moore hates it when his novels get transferred to the big screen, and after watching this movie, you can kind of see why. They not only destroy everything that made the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen such a great graphic novel to begin with, but they also just take a big shit on logics and physics whatsoever. It's a movie so bad that Sean Connery literally retired from filmmaking after this. Like I said, this is the guy that turned down the Matrix trilogy and the Lord of the Rings trilogy and did this, and basically said, you know what, I'm done. I've been in Outland, I've been in Meteor, I've been in Medicine Man, I've been in the Avengers. Fuck this shit, I'm out. I kind of changed my accent there to Sean Connery's Scottish accent, but you get the idea here. That's how bad this movie is. So, really, what's wrong with the film? Pretty much everything. it looks so dark and gritty, and I don't mean that as a compliment. I can't see what the hell's going on at times because this movie is so horribly shot. You cannot see anything at all. When the scenes take place at nighttime, you can barely make out what's going on in here. I mean, if you're watching this in the daytime, you can literally see reflections of the sun while you're watching the movie. And it's just like, even with an HD version, it's just like, what is going on here? And like, it's like that throughout the entire film. The casting is so awful in this. Not a single person in this cast looks or sounds like they want to be there. Sean Connery quit acting because of this. And really, he looked at this and said, hey, I'm making $17 million for this, but this isn't worth it. I mean, like, Sean Connery literally got paid $17 million to star in this and produce the film. And because of this, they couldn't hire any other big actors. So who did he get? The lead guy from A Walk to Remember and the first TV Nikita, who are also terrible in the movie, too, because they're not really given anything to work with here. But hey, it's not the fault of that they were bad in this. I mean, the script is just a bad movie. This writer is James Dale Robinson, who's best known for writing comics. He wasn't even involved with any previous lead comics. So basically, they hire a comics guy who has no idea who these characters are in this book and just makes a bland, forgettable action film that makes no sense whatsoever. There's a car chase in Venice. There's a car chase in Venice, which will be fine except for one little problem. Venice doesn't have any roads suitable for a car chase. Like, it's like they didn't even try. They didn't even read the comics as they were making the movie. Because, as Roger Ebert himself said in the Ebert and Roper review for this, there are no streets in Venice. So the cars would go into a canal or crash into a bridge. I mean, just, is it really that hard to do your research on this? Like, I know this was back when people just didn't give a shit and just said, this is popular. This is a popular comic book. Comic books are the thing. We want to make a movie out of it. Why don't you get people who are actually involved with the comic or know more about the comic to actually make the movie? And a couple years later, that would have actually been the trend. But that more than tells you enough about how bad this movie is. It doesn't even pay respects to the original novel. I mean, it's trying to represent... It's a poorly casted film. The visuals are absolutely abysmal. The cinematography is terrible. The plot makes no sense. Sean Connery literally wastes his career away with this film and just has nothing of value to it whatsoever. I mean, it's one of the worst comic adaptations ever made. And just when you think it couldn't get any worse... This is a DC property. Guess what their next movie is after this? Catwoman. 2004 is going to be a ton of fun, I can tell you that much.
This summer, New Line Cinema proudly presents the greatest saga of all time. From the very beginning. Of Dumb and Dumber.
Sorry about that, buddy. It's my first time bringing a friend up there. You okay? So I suppose all about looking cool, Harry, so stick with me.
What stinks?
WB, sir.
Going on a journey.
Is that what I think it is? Nope, it's a treasure map.
Cool. And an adventure.
It's our special boss, Harry!
Of idiotic proportions. Space giving $100,000 to every store that has a special needs class. Problem is, where do we find kids who can pass off as special?
Thanks, Doc!
Bingo. On June 13th, well, I've got a little surprise for you.
You got the extender?
Oh, that's close. It's a meeting of the mindless.
Special.
Before the first movie, there was high school.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
I think I need a bag.
Is this going to be on return?
No? That's my boy. There's only one way to solve this. Make out contest.
I'm waiting.
Dumb and Dumber. When Harry met Lloyd.
Did you just...
Maybe.
Yes, the prequel's so pointless that even its marketing is questioning why the hell they're even deciding to do this film. Oh, you think I'm kidding? No. There was actually a teaser trailer that came out before this that is literally spelling out to you that we think this is a stupid idea, but we're going to do it anyway.
Dumb, below normal intelligence. Dumber, way below normal intelligence. Dumber,
completely devoid of any shred of anything that even remotely resembles intelligence. For example, trying to make a prequel to Dumb and Dumber. When Harry met Lloyd, Dumb and Dumber. They're young, they're fun, they're full of dumb.
When even the marketing is telling you that this is a horrible idea, but we're still going to do it anyway, that tells you a lot about how they felt about making this film. So it's the 1980s, 1986 to be exact, and it's the moment that Lloyd Christmas and Harry Dunn meet. Lloyd Christmas is played by Eric Christian Olsen, who would later go on to have a much more successful career in NCIS, in the NCIS series, but and then the actor playing Harry, Derek Richardson, has not really done a whole lot since then, a couple of TV shows here and there, but they play Lloyd and Harry, and the two individuals are seen by many as special and become best friends as soon as they meet. Principal Collins, played by Eugene Levy, and his lover, the lunch lady, Mrs. Heller, played by Sherry O'Terry, want to make as much money out of scams, and their next idea is to create a special needs class. Miss Heller is the teacher, and they have assigned Harry and Lloyd to round the special students up, which includes Shia LaBeouf, because, you know, forget the great promise he showed in Holes. Here's a movie where he really does not have a whole lot to do in here. School news reporter Jessica, played by Rachel Nichols, that Rachel Nichols from the G.I. Joe movies, is suspicious, though, and desperately tries to find out the truth, even if it means gaining Harry and Lloyd's help. So there's a lot of notable names in here, not just the ones I mentioned, but Louis Guzman, Julia Duffy, who else is in here? Tim Stack, Brian Posehn, Bob Saget, which I'll get to him in a minute because he's probably part of the biggest scene in the entire film, the most memorable scene in the entire film, I should say. Mimi Rogers. I mean, there is a decent cast in here in general. All have gone on to better things since after this because why do we even need to sugarcoat it? This movie is bad. Like, I mean, it's a bad movie. It's not funny. It's not clever whatsoever. Even for a movie that's supposed to be considered really dumb, this is too dumb for its own damn good. I mean, this is a film that is just so lazy and so uninspired and just so pointless. Like, there's no reason to make this movie. You can't expect me to believe that these two guys are going to grow up to be the Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels 8 years after this movie. The set piece comes into play, because this takes place in 86, and that came out. The original Dumb and Dumber came out in 94, and it's just a bad film per se. And it's funny because this movie probably would have had a chance if they had gone with the original route that they had, because supposedly they were going to get Trey Parker and Matt Stone to write the script for this, but because of scheduling conflicts, they opted out of the project and basically had to return the salary they got from New Line Cinema back. And what could have been, because they probably could have saved this movie, not by a whole lot, but it probably would have been a whole lot better than it actually is, which it's a terrible film on so many levels, but it does have one memorable scene in it that actually does kind of work in the film's favor, and that is the scene with Bob Saget, who plays Rachel Nichols' father in here, and it's a scene where it's funny because it's like the first movie. One of the most memorable scenes involves poop all over the poop, except in the original, it was Jeff Daniels having explosive diarrhea, but in this, it's just Bob Saget screaming, "There's shit everywhere." I mean, and again, this is Bob Saget, the guy who made his career off of stuff like America's Funniest Home Videos and Full House, and then he does something like Dirty Work, and then this, and it's just like, you know, look, there's a reason why he was called America's Filthiest Family Man. I mean, he has the most memorable scene in the movie, and it's just nothing but him screaming, "There's shit everywhere," and just the way he's screaming it, it's just perfect. Like, it's just it's that one brief flash of something really hilarious from something really stupid that works in the film's favor, and it's just the one thing that this movie has going for it. But everything else about it is just, let's just put it this way. The director of this is the same man that gave us the holiday classic that is Jack Frost, the Michael Keaton one. The one where Michael Keaton dies and turns into a snowman, a badly CG snowman. That should have been the warning sign that this was not going to work out. And but despite all that, it was still a hit. Like, it wasn't as big of a hit as the original Dumb and Dumber, but the thing only cost $19 million to make and did make its budget back, but doubling it by $40 million to $40 million. So they did kind of make their... It did end up being somewhat successful when it was all said and done, but even then, it's just kind of like, was it really worth it? I mean, was it really worth it to do this film? I mean, I guess because this came out, they eventually decided, okay, we're finally going to make the sequel, Dumb and Dumber 2, about 11 years later, which, it's better, but not by that much. I'll delve more into that when we get to 2014, but, I mean, at least that's better than this film. This was just... There's nothing more I gotta say about it, man. This is just not a good movie whatsoever. It's just a film that's just really, really, really bad, and it's not even hiding the fact that it's completely pointless, but, I've really got nothing else for you. That's Dumb and Dumberer, When Harry Met Lloyd.
Hi, Mrs. Kwan. Thanks for babysitting on such short notice. I'll be back in a couple of hours. Conrad, Sally, remember the rules. No playing ball in the house, no fighting, no answering the phone, city morgue, and absolutely no one sets foot in the living room or else. Hit me.
This holiday season,
What's that?
Universal Pictures, DreamWorks Pictures, and Imagine Entertainment invite you to the ultimate house party.
Let's get this party started.
From Ryan Grazer, the producer of The Grinch, Mike Myers,
This cat is firmly in violation of 17 of your mother's rules. 18!
The Cat in the Hat,
Homo, who is this?
That's my mom.
Awkward.
And just when you think that trailer isn't bad enough, you should see what the international trailer for this movie looked like. And, needless to say, it's pretty much nightmare fuel.
Next year, you can finally...
Let's talk about good oral hygiene. Slacker went to see a professional dentist, and now his teeth are in perfect condition. You bet they are. Slacker went to see a professional dentist. 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 Slacker went to see a professional dentist.
What the hell was that? No, seriously, what the hell was that supposed to be? Like, does that really sell the movie? I mean, like, I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but man, did you really drop the ball on that one. But then again, this whole movie drops the ball on it because, you know, The Grinch was a big hit a couple of years ago, but then again, you had Ron Howard directing it, and at least that movie looked like a movie. This, not so much. The Cat in the Hat, of course, do I really need to tell you what the story is? You have Mike Myers as the Cat in the Hat, and Dakota Fanning starring as Sally, Spencer Breslin as Conrad, these two kids who are stuck at home during a rainstorm. And of course, the Cat in the Hat comes in and says, hey, let's have some fun. At least in the original story. And this one, it's, let's have some fun and also be incredibly obnoxious because I'm Mike Myers. And that's exactly what this whole movie is. This is a film that is notoriously bad for many, many reasons. I said this was one of the worst movies ever made, and you don't have to take my word for it, because Dr. Seuss's wife himself even thought that, because she said no more live-action adaptations of Dr. Seuss's work need to be made for this, and because of that, they canceled the sequel to this, because this did make money, not a lot, especially compared to The Grinch, but you know, I have this tied up with Dr. Seuss's The Lorax as two of the worst movies I have ever seen, because I hate the Lorax movie so much. It just felt like a mass misrepresentation of what that story was about with the Lorax, but of the two that are the biggest insult, it's easily the Cat in the Hat. Let's take the most iconic character Dr. Seuss has in his library outside of the Grinch and just turn him into an egotistical jackass. I mean, yeah, Mike Myers as the Cat in the Hat could have made for good casting, but then again, the last movie he did was Austin Powers and Goldmember, and that shtick was getting old really fast, so yeah, we can go ahead and scratch that out. The casting in this just seems forced and phoned in. I mean, this is a movie that has two top young kid talents. We've seen them in movies earlier this year. Dakota Fanning, Spencer Breslin the year before with the Santa Claus 2. They really do not work in this film whatsoever. They're the typical bland, forgettable, trying to be relevant kids of the 90s and early 2000s that just don't act like normal kids. Kelly Preston as the mother is completely underused here. Alec Baldwin's just a bland, forgettable bad guy. It takes a lot to make Alec Baldwin look like a terrible actor, and this movie certainly does just that. But and not only that, it's just filler. It's some of the worst filler I've ever seen. And this movie is just under an hour and a half, 82 minutes long, and yet it still cannot find stuff to do with this character whatsoever when it's not taking from the source material. Like The Grinch has its flaws, especially with the runtime, and you could take a huge chunk of it out, and the movie still would have been, and the movie could have worked much better than it did. But you got more enjoyment out of The Grinch because of what Jim Carrey was bringing to the table, because everything looked like it was there. That's how bad this pilot is, people. And it's just a complete misfire on everything Seuss's material stood for. Hey, there's a pointless party scene where Paris Hilton shows up for a cameo because she was a thing back then. Yeah, way to date stamp this movie before it's even out of theaters. How about one more? There's another scene where the Cat in the Hat is promoting Universal Studios and even does a ka-ching during the key part of the final act. It's like the people who made this movie just didn't give a fuck whatsoever. And it also doesn't help that the talent is there. Mike Myers can be funny. He's not funny here. But not only that, Alec Berg wrote this. That's a name you might not be familiar with, but he wrote for Seinfeld. He wrote for Silicon Valley. David Mandel, the guy who ran Veep, also worked for Seinfeld. Jeff Schaffer, you guessed it, wrote for Seinfeld and later created The League. You've got 3 writers from one of the greatest comedies of all time, and you don't get a good script out of it? Really? It also doesn't help that the movie's directed by Bo Welsh, a well-known production designer. He's done a lot of stuff for Beetlejuice, Ghostbusters 2, Batman Returns, the Men in Black movies. It was his first movie as a feature film director, and unfortunately, it's his only film as a director, because as great as this guy is as a production designer, the guy cannot direct to save his life. There are literally scenes where you can see miscues and things about to happen. I never forget this, towards the end of the movie, where you have Conrad and Sally running back to the house, and Alec Baldwin's character is supposed to pop out and surprise the kids as they reach the house. But if you look as they're running, you literally see Baldwin's legs. They don't even hide it. That's how lazy this movie is. This movie doesn't even take the time to digitize Alec Baldwin's legs out of the movie. It's just, it boggles the mind that this movie got made and actually came out the way it did, because my God, this is the worst possible thing you could do with this character alone. And let's talk about the CG effects, too. They're terrible. That fish there, horrible, even though he's another waste of talent with Sean Hayes. And you don't even get to see how he gets turned into the cartoon fish. Just kind of happens out of nowhere. And it's just, like, here's the thing. Dr. Seuss films should be timeless movies, like how Pixar does their films, for the most part. But these are books that we've grown up with kids, and the appeal of kids these days has gone way downhill in where they were when we were growing up. I mean, these books were made in a much different time period than they were today. They have got to stop throwing in pop culture references in Dr. Seuss movies and make them more timeless films. Even a movie like The Grinch, which I actually did like, the Benedict Cumberbatch one, has pop culture references in there. But you know what? Here's the thing. I don't like them in that. I don't like that they're in that movie, but at least they're placed in there where it doesn't feel like it's overstaying its welcome. I would like it if I didn't have to have these Dr. Seuss movies be that way, but you know what? I'm not running the studios, unfortunately. And worst of all, these are Dr. Seuss films that go completely against everything the books are supposed to go for. The Lorax, promoting Mazda cars, which are basically a hypocrisy of what the movie's about. The Cat in the Hat had numerous marketing campaigns for this film that just felt like they were so out of place and just so out of touch of what Dr. Seuss's works are supposed to be. These are supposed to be entertaining stories for kids as well as adults and teach life lessons. They're not supposed to be raunchy, over-the-top, and hypocritical, PG-rated failures of movies. At least with Horton Hears a Who, which was the next one after this, they got the style right. They got the idea of, you know, what the books are supposed to be about. Another one had pop culture references, but you know what? Still made for an entertaining movie. It says something when the Grinch both the Grinch movies and Horton Hears a Who are the far superior Dr. Seuss adaptations. Those are not perfect movies, but you know what? They do a better job of capturing the spirit of Dr. Seuss's stories than Cat in the Hat and the Lorax did. But bottom line, I mean, what more can I say? The Cat in the Hat is just an abomination on so many levels, and just the end of the road for Mike Myers' goodwill, because after this, his career went downhill.
Come with us to Miami. It's not bussy.
Music will bring two strangers together.
Hey, they go from the beach.
And nothing can come between them.
I'm gonna ask her out again.
Except all their friends.
So what does a girl need to do to get you?
There are a million hot girls here, and you're still talking about the one girl who blew you off.
Kelly Clarkson.
I should take a chance.
Justin Guarini.
Next girl is special.
In the musical event of the summer. From Justin to Kelly. Rated PG. June 20th, only in theaters.
Well, I'll give it this. It was the musical event of the summer, and the fact that it was the only musical released in the summer of 2003, so it really wasn't an event. More just like, hey, we don't have any other musicals in here. We'll advertise this as the musical event of the summer, and maybe that'll force people to come see our film. This is one of the worst weekends of the year. Maybe one of the worst weekends for big movies of all time, because, man, From Justin to Kelly certainly is... It's something. Let's go ahead and take a look at the plot for this and just go into it. This takes place during spring break in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We have Texas singing waitress Kelly Taylor meeting Pennsylvania college student Justin Bell, played by Kelly Clarkson and Justin Guarini. They fall for each other, and various romantic complications ensue. Kelly's friend Kaya falls in love with charming busboy Carlos. Kelly's other friend Alexa seems to keep Justin and Kelly from meeting. Justin's friend Brandon is also getting on the wrong side of a sexy beach patrol woman. And Justin's other friend Eddie tries to hook her up with a cyber pal. And this is a film that was so terrible that it almost didn't get released. And judging by the film that we have here, it probably shouldn't have been, but all in good time. Some theater chains literally were threatening not to screen the film when eventually this would be Disney, but 20th Century Fox announced plans to rush it to VHS and DVD a mere 6 weeks after its original release. The deuce, you say? I mean, it's not like nowadays where we just release movies 17 days in theaters and then say, here it is on digital, and then go like, well, why didn't The Fall Guy do well? Well, dumbasses. You literally are putting it out on Blu-ray and digital 17 days after it was released in theaters. And you're expecting it to become a hit in theaters still. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? But again, we'll save that for another time. But Fox ultimately relented and pushed the release date back a few months. And after the opening weekend flop, they decided to reinstate the original release plan. And the film was released in theaters on August 26th. So, theater chains threatened to pull the film. Probably shouldn't even bother to do that, because not only did you waste the studio's time by pushing it back, but it was all for naught, because this film was gone after literally 2 weeks. Like, they didn't even wait the 6 weeks. Like, you could have easily done what we do today. Just put it in theaters for 17 days and then put it on DVD. Nobody would have given a crap. Like, you wasted their time by doing this, but then again, there was this genre in 2003 where they were just like, this was actually the second theatrical release film based off a reality show. We already talked about The Real Cancun. We know how bad that movie was. Yeah, and guess what? That sucked too. But this film, I mean, I don't get it. I have no idea what they were doing. They were basically just trying to cash in on something that just premiered the year before with American Idol. This was a film based off the thing that pushed Fox to the #1 spot in terms of network television for the first time ever. And that was a pretty big deal for them. Like, Fox, they had spent the last 10 years establishing themselves as the fourth television network with The Simpsons, Beverly Hills 90210, Melrose Place, and then the NFL pushed them over the map. But this was the one that put them over the top as the #1 network for a good amount of time. And don't get me wrong, Kelly Clarkson and Justin Guarini can be decent actors if you give them good scripts to work off. I mean, it's funny how Justin Guarini actually had a career not in music, but in terms of those Dr. Pepper commercials when he was Little Sweet, and he's actually pretty hilarious in those. Yeah, it's far-fetched and over the top, but he's acting. He's coming off as humorous. And in this, he's just nothing. And in fact, everybody in this movie is just nothing. It's like Kelly Clarkson, She's too talented to be in a good movie like this. Like, what a waste of potential for this movie to have with these two people. These two people have shown they have more talent than this film is letting on, and really, I don't think it's their fault, because like I said before, it's nothing but a stupid cash grab in a year when American Idol already tried to cash grab people. Like, they didn't even wait a year after the show premiered to already premiere a spin-off called American Juniors, which also failed miserably. Like, just go ahead and listen to some of this from Kids in America, this version of Kids in America, and I'm just going to let you listen to some of this.
Looking out a dirty old window, down below the cars in the city go rushing by. I sit here alone and I wonder why.
I'm sorry I can't hear or see you guys, because I was literally ripping out my ears and my eyes after listening to that abomination. I mean, like, okay, not really, but can you blame me? Can you blame me? That was horrible. I almost did the exact same. I almost did that in real life when I saw that. I was just like, what the hell were they thinking? But you get the point. The movie is bad. It's terrible. It's rubbish. But the big question is, why does it even exist? Well, like I said, American Idol was a big hit at the time. But was it really that big of a hit that somebody at Fox said, you know what we need to do? We need to, now that we've got this big TV success, let's make a movie around the two frontrunners who have had no acting experience up to this point. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, what's the point? It makes no sense whatsoever. You can just look at the trailer and know right off the bat that none of this shit makes any sense at all. And here's the thing that really worries me about this. Fox was thinking that this was going to be a hit. They actually put the money into it. They put a $12 million budget on this film. It made back $5 million. Where did that $12 million go? I mean, Kelly Clarkson and Justin Green could not be that big of a names to warrant a film that has $12 million attached to it. And, like, this is 2003. They had barely reached the peak of their careers yet. I mean, Kelly Clarkson's first album came out the same year. Like, what were they thinking? What were they thinking with this movie? And this comes out around the same time when we've had a lot of big musical bombs. You know, Mariah Carey's Glitter, you know, Britney Spears' Crossroad. We haven't even gotten to stuff like Ashley Simpson's Undiscovered or Hilary Duff's Raise Your Voice. But honestly, this might be the worst of the very worst. I mean, this is the worst of the very worst. The acting is bad. The story makes no sense whatsoever. The music is terrible. The choreography is awful. It's just an all-around mess of a film, and it easily earns the distinction of one of the worst films ever made. In fact, it's in my top 5 or 6 worst movies I've ever seen in my life. It also earns the distinction as the single worst adaptation of a television series ever. And I know it's not based off entirely of American Idol, but it's based off of... It's an American Idol cash grab, regardless, and a bad one at that. There's a reason why I said this is one of my least favorite movies of all time, and it's that bad, people. Just avoid this movie like the plague. From Justin to Kelly, just avoid it. For the love of God.
Doesn't it wake you in the middle of the night? The feeling that someday they will pass that foolish law. Come, Faye. And your children. Take you all away. It does indeed. A great swell of pity for the poor soul who comes to that school looking for trouble. What's happened to you? Don't you remember? You should kill me when you have the chance! Kill him, Bobby! No! Welcome, Professor. You haven't told me about his past. I can't remember.
Sometimes anger can help you survive.
Or, I'm sorry, X2, because X-Men 2 is just too much for this movie. We had to shorten it to make it seem cool, which, then again, probably works out better for it. But the plot is inspired by the graphic novel God Loves, Man Kills, in which they pit the X-Men and their enemies, the Brotherhood, against the genocidal Colonel William Stryker, played by Brian Cox. He leads an assault on Professor Xavier's school to build his own version of Xavier's mutant tracking computer, Cerebro, in order to destroy every mutant on Earth. And, up until we got to the most recent X-Men films, like Days of Future Past, this is probably my favorite X-Men movie of the bunch. I mean, all the problems that were in the original X-Men movie are completely fixed here. The characters all seem to have a purpose to being there. We get a lot more better character development, including people that were kind of the weakest parts of the last movie. Anna Paquin's Rogue and Halle Berry's Storm, to be exact. They went from being bland characters in the first film to becoming more likable and more necessary to the group in this particular film. And the new characters they add in here are pretty cool to watch. Brian Cox is William Stryker, Alan Cumming is Nightcrawler. He shares a close resemblance to the character in the comics Nightcrawler does, which I thought was pretty impressive that they were able to do that. The action sequences, I think, are very impressive to watch. There's a lot of great tension in these action sequences. You really didn't know at first how it was going to end or who's going to come out as the victor of this. The plot and the story are more concrete and more understandable, unlike something like Daredevil, the last Marvel movie that came out. You know what's going on, you know what's at stake, and you know why they have to stop the threat. It does run a little bit too long, at about 2 hours and 13 minutes, but then again, that's really my only major flaw with the film. And look at how long most superhero movies are nowadays. I think I heard Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be like almost 2.5 hours long, but as long as the movie is good, it's more than worth it. But like in this case, it fixes all the problems of the previous movie. All the characters seem to have a purpose this time around. The new characters offer up something new to the table. A lot of tension in the action sequences, more concentrated in storytelling compared to the first film. It really is one of the best X-Men movies, and one that I always go back to every time it's on. But X-Men 2, X-Men United, I can't recommend this one enough. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and watch it, man.
There are 3.7 trillion fish in the ocean. They're looking for one.
His son Bingo. Nemo was taken to Sydney.
Walt Disney Pictures presents a Pixar Animation Studios film.
Totally. I gotta find my son Nemo.
Go easy on him. He's lost his son, Fabio.
Fish are French. Not food. Grab shell, dude. It's coming up, man.
You mean the swirling vortex of terror?
That's it, dude. Roger!
Finding Nemo.
First you were all like, whoa. And then we were like, whoa. And then you were like, whoa. What are you talking about? You got serious thrill issues, dude.
Clearly won't be remembered 20 years from now. And okay, I'm done playing this charade right now. You know exactly what this goddamn movie is. Finding Nemo, the is it the fourth or fifth film? Fifth film, because Toy Story, Bugs Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc. Yeah, fifth movie. And I mean, do I really need to say anything more about this movie? But let's just run down the plot real quick here. You have an overprotective clownfish named Marlin, played by Albert Brooks, who, along with a forgetful regal blue tang named Dory, played by Ellen DeGeneres, they search for his missing son Nemo, played by Alexander Gould. But along the way, Marlin learns to take risks and comes to terms with Nemo taking care of himself and growing up. And really, like I said, there really is not much more about this movie that I have to say that hasn't already been said already. The big thing about this was that it was a massive hit. It was actually the highest-grossing animated film of all time at its release, breaking a record that had been held by The Lion King for almost 10 years, and then the following year got destroyed by Shrek 2 after that. But did go on to become the second highest-grossing film of the year, earning almost over $800 million worldwide. It spawned a sequel, was nominated for 4 Oscars, including winning Pixar's first ever Best Animated Feature Oscar. And, again, there's really not much more I can add to this movie that hasn't already been said already. It's just a film that just works on so many levels. It's a great movie with a great cast. You have a cast that also includes Willem Dafoe, Jeffrey Rush, Eric Bana, I'm trying to remember who else is in here, Vicki Davis, Vicki Lewis, Brad Garrett, Stephen Root, just a lot of great talent in this movie. Elizabeth Perkins is in this film. John Ratzenberger, of course, you hear in there. Of course, is always in there. Barry Humphries as Bruce the White Shark. I mean, just memorable characters all around. Great animation. Underwater animation, too, looks incredible. A great adventure. A great coming-of-age story. I mean, again, there's just so much about this movie that really, I don't think I need to say too much more about it, because you know it's good. You know out there how great this movie is. I mean, it's a film that still holds up after all these years later, and led to a really good sequel that came after that, too, with Finding Dory. I mean, again, not much more I can say about this film that hasn't already been said already. It's a great film. I can't recommend it enough. I've seen it many times. You've seen it many times. What more do I gotta say? Finding Nemo. Just a great, great film. Yeah. Again, not much more I can add to that one that hasn't already been said already.
People worship me. This Friday, see Jack Rock.
Get a job. Everyone, I'd like to introduce your substitute.
See Jack teach. The world is run by the man. Who? Oh, you don't know the man? The man ruined the ozone, and he kidnapped Shamu and put her in a chlorine tank, okay? See Jack.
If the kid gets out of line, I got no problem smacking him in the head.
No.
See Jack.
Okay, so just verbal abuse?
The School of Rock. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday.
I beg your pardon. The School of Rock. I guess we needed to add the there for, I don't know, a little bit of elegance, if you will. I don't know, but Jack Black plays a struggling rock guitarist named Dewey Finn, who is fired from his band and subsequently poses as a substitute teacher at a prestigious prep school. After witnessing the musical talent of the students, Dewey forms a band of fourth graders to attempt to win the upcoming Battle of the Bands and uses winnings to pay his rent. And of course, you know, hilarity and chaos ensues. You're going to have a story like this that's very similar to Dead Poet Society, and of course they're going to find out the liar reveals situation, and normally that would kill the movie when they do this type of stuff, but in the case of School of Rock, it does everything right. It does everything the right way. Like, it's a film that, it proves that not only Jack Black does have a lot of charisma to lead a film like this. I mean, this is his first major starring role in a film, and he makes it work very well here. But not only that, I mean, you got Mike White, who we now know is the person behind stuff like The White Lotus. He wrote Migration recently. He's going to write Despicable Me 4 coming up soon. But this was one of his early films that he wrote, and this is also directed by Richard Linklater, who had not done any of these type of films before, like a more mainstream comedy. He'd done stuff like, you know, Dazed and Confused, Before Sunrise, you know, all these different indie films. So this is his first real opportunity to show what he can do with a mainstream project like this, and he makes it work very well here. With what he brings to the table here, he really does add another element to this film. And the film is just likable, too. Jack Black is very likable. You do like a lot of these kids. They're not the typical movie kid characters where they're just there to be just like the cute kid characters. You see a lot of star power with people like Miranda Cosgrove. This was one of her early film roles before eventually became successful with iCarly, and then with the Despicable Me films. You've got a great cast that also includes people like Joan Cusack, who usually will never be bad in any movie. I mean, even the worst movie, she'll turn in probably the best performance of the film. Sarah Silverman is very good in the film as well for the little bit she's in. There's also a lot of cameos in here, especially with Kyle Gass playing one of the teachers. The film itself is just a really good, fun time all the way through, and people ate it up. I mean, it's hard not to see why, because this is just a good, fun, crowd-pleasing type of a film. It's a film that just keeps you on the edge of your seat. It keeps you having a good time all the way through. You do want to see Jack Black complete his goal. You want to see these kids get up there and have their good moment in the spotlight. And it's a very fun film all the way through. I mean, it's a really good, fun film, and it doesn't go that route that you think it's going to go down. You think it's going to go down the route where they're going to win it all, but in a way it's reminiscent of the Bad News Bears, kind of. If the original Bad News Bears, which, convincingly enough, Richard Linklater would later go on to do the Bad News Bears as his next big mainstream film, but we'll get to that one in about 2 years' time when that comes out. But really, there's not much more I can add to this that hasn't already been said already. School of Rock is a masterpiece of comedy gold from Jack Black, and it just shows that the guy has a lot of potential as a leading actor, as he would show later on down the road here. And it's just, what more can you say? It's a great movie. And
On my wedding, they killed everyone I loved. I couldn't just turn the other cheek. But hey, I'm not that kind of girl. It's mercy, compassion, and forgiveness I lack.
That's my girl.
Given a choice, have unfinished business.
Rated R, in theaters October 10th.
Kill Bill Volume 1 is, of course, the story of Uma Thurman playing a bride who swears revenge on a group of assassins. They're played by Lucy Liu, Michael Madsen, Daryl Hannah, and Vivica A. Fox, and their leader, Bill, played by David Carradine, after they try to kill her and her unborn child. Her journey takes her to Tokyo, where she battles the Yakuza, and eventually meets up with Vivica A. Fox in her home, and leads to a battle between the two of them. And as you can tell, the film is very much an homage to, pretty much everything Quentin Tarantino loves. I mean, grindhouse cinema, martial arts films, samurai cinema, blaxploitation, spaghetti western, stuff that he's promoted and talked about in various ways. Like, he's been, whenever they re-release these movies in the theaters, you usually see a Quentin Tarantino presentation, because he loves these type of films, and this movie literally feels like a homage and a tribute to those films. And this was actually supposed to be a single release, but they eventually cut it down into 2 films, which I think in the long run does hurt it. Not to say that both of the parts aren't bad, but needless to say, the best parts of this movie, and the ones that we remember the most, are in this first part right here. I mean, the scene where she's taken on the Yakuza is an awesome scene. That scene I was talking about earlier with Vivica A. Fox finding in their home, and the kids coming home from school, and they're trying to pretend like, nothing's going on. Like, you see them talking like normal in the front, and then behind you see like swords and knives and all that stuff. Like, that stuff is great. Not to say that the second one doesn't have memorable moments as well, but with Volume 2, it kind of felt like a letdown compared to all the stuff they were building up in here. And I think a lot of people would agree that this first movie really does have a lot of the stuff that we remember most from this. The action sequences are great. The casting overall is very good. The visuals are amazing to look at. I mean, you could definitely tell Tarantino loves his homages to these classic movies that he used to grow up with. And it does lead to a lot of really great moments in here that just still stand up after over 20 years. It's a movie that still holds up very much over time. Like I said, it's not to say that the second film was bad, but if I had to choose between that film and this film, this one would win easily. But we'll have to wait another 6 months for Kill Bill Volume 2, because that'll be on April this next year that we'll get into once we're done with this year. So that's Kill Bill Volume 1.
Matchstick Men is deviously clever with a hip sense of humor. It's a 21st century version of the Sting.
What do you think we can take that guy for? 30 grand more.
$1 million?
Nicolas Cage turns in a tour de force performance with heart and soul.
I'm not very good at being dad. I barely get by being me.
Director Matci Scott has a wealth of tricks up his sleeve in this twisty caper comedy. Matchstick Men, rated PG-13, starts Friday, September 12th.
I've kind of talked bad about Ridley Scott over the last couple of years, mostly because we don't get that same Ridley Scott anymore that we did back in the day, when you got really excited to see what he could do. But every time he makes a new movie now, it always feels like the same. There's always a lot of promise going into it, and then it's always underwhelming when it's over and done with. He hasn't made a legitimately good movie in the last 10 years, with the exception of The Martian, of course. But other than that, though, most of his movies have been very much underperformers and films that just weren't that good. This is back when Ridley Scott was really good at doing stuff that you didn't expect to see from him, because this is a really damn good movie where you have Nicolas Cage and Sam Rockwell playing a couple of professional small-town con artists, where Cage is a veteran of the grift and Rockwell's his ambitious protege. Their swindling these days are water filtration systems, marking basement water filters bought by unsuspecting people who pay 10 times their value in order to win bogus prizes like cars, jewelry, overseas vacations, stuff they can never collect. Their scams net the flim-flam men a few hundred here and there, another 1,000 here, which eventually adds up into a lucrative partnership. Roy's private life, however, is not so successful. As an obsessive-compulsive agoraphobe with no personal relationship to his own, Roy is barely hanging on to his wits when his idiosyncrasies begin to threaten his criminal productivity. He's forced to seek the help of a psychoanalyst just to keep him in working order. When Roy is looking for a quick fix, his therapy begets more than he bargained for the revelation that he has a teenage daughter, here played by Alison Lohman, a child whose existence he suspected, but he never dared confirm. 14-year-old Angela wants to meet her father she never knew. At first, Angela's appearance disrupts her neurotic father's carefully ordered routine. Soon, however, with his own unique spin of parenthood, Roy begins to enjoy a relationship which he never dreamed of having with his daughter. But when he develops paternal feelings to the 14-year-old, she develops a fascination with Daddy's questionable career. So, it's a very interesting con game being played here, where the con is not the biggest thing about the film. It's about the people involved in the con. It's a very damn good movie that's so underrated by Ridley Scott. It's the film that I think... This is what I really like about Ridley Scott back in the day. Like, you could tell he had high ambitions for projects that were kind of outside of his norm, and with a great talent like Nicolas Cage, Sam Rockwell, Alison Lohman to make it work. It's a film that really is well done on so many levels. It's a film that is so damn good. I remember wanting to see it when I saw it when I saw the trailers for it back in the day. I never got around to it until most recently, and I'm glad I finally did, because this is a film that definitely deserves to get a lot more respect and attention than it deserves. It's Nicolas Cage showing what Nicolas Cage can do as an actor. Sam Rockwell showing what he can do. Alison Lohman, Bruce McGill's also in here. And this is what Ridley Scott does so well. This is what I missed from a guy like Ridley Scott from back in the day. And what compared to what we do have from him now, it's just like, it feels like this is the Ridley Scott we've been missing for the longest period of time. And it's just such a damn good movie, man. I can't recommend this one enough. If you have not seen Matchstick Men, you are doing yourself a major disservice by not doing so. Definitely seek this one out, because you will not be disappointed by it by any means. With one of the most badass trailers you will ever see. I mean, that trailer is just one of those great trailers that even if you're not a horror guy, you watch that and you're just like, I gotta figure out what the hell's going on here. Because I know that's what happened to me when I first saw that trailer. It's just like, what the hell is this? I gotta see this. And you have the story here where you have Cillian Murphy as a bicycle courier who awakens from a coma to discover the accidental release of a highly contagious, aggression-inducing virus that has caused the breakdown of society. And technically, Danny Boyle himself doesn't credit this as a zombie film, but nevertheless, it was important to helping to reinvigorate the zombie genre of horror film as a whole, and essentially instituted a revival in the decade after its release with stuff like, Shaun of the Dead, which is a spoof of zombie movies, and in the same year, we had Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, and George A. Romero was able to continue his zombie series after this, but this just proves the length of how much Danny Boyle has as a filmmaker, that he doesn't stick to one particular genre. He's a guy that can do so many different genres, and he almost always nails it right out of the park. And this is another example of that. This is the film that he needed after The Beach was a misguided opportunity with Leonardo DiCaprio. But this is a film that is really, really damn good, and really is intense and scary when it needs to be. I mean, it's a film that has everything you want in a good horror movie. You've got characters you want to relate to, you want to get to know. You've got a situation where the zombies aren't acting like the zombies you see before, where they're walking slow as hell. No, these zombies are moving fast as hell because they know that when they see something that isn't infected, they got to go after them and kill them and have them be a part of their thing. And like, it's just a movie that still holds up after all these years later. Like, even in the attempts that they've tried to turn this into a franchise, where it hasn't been as successful. 28 Weeks Later was not that great of a movie in general. But they're bringing it back with 28 Years Later, which is essentially going to be a two-part film continuing from this story onward. And it definitely piques my interest to see where they go from there, see if they can find that magic again. But the movie itself is really damn good. It still holds up after all these years from a visual perspective, from a horror movie perspective, from an acting perspective. Everything about it still holds up. The atmosphere, the tension building, just this is what pure, perfected horror cinema really is. It's a film that's just so intense, so in your face, and it's just like, it's a masterpiece, man. It's one of the great horror movies of all time. I can't recommend it enough. 28 Days Later, if you have not seen it, even if you're not a horror fan, see it. You will not be disappointed by it by any means necessary.
Everybody loses a couple, and you either pack up and you go home or you keep fighting.
Critics are calling Seabiscuit the best film of the year. A beautiful tale of courage and triumph against all odds. Seabiscuit is magnificent, inspiring, and glorious. Newsweek says nothing can stop this story from putting a lump in your throat.
He made me better. You made me better.
Tobey Maguire, Jeff Bridges, Chris Cooper, Seabiscuit, rated PG-13, coming to DVD December 16.
Gary Ross and Tobey Maguire teaming up again for the first time since Pleasantville. And the story here is based on the story of the racing career of Seabiscuit, an undersized and overlooked thoroughbred racehorse whose unexpected success made him a hugely popular media sensation in the United States during the Great Depression, even though his rider, Tobey Maguire, is blind in one eye. It's a film that's clearly going for Oscar bait, but you know what? It's a good Oscar bait movie because everybody in the movie is playing their parts very well. You mean, Tobey Maguire really shows why he's a great actor. Jeff Bridges shows why he's a great actor here. Chris Cooper's great. William H. Macy's really good here. Nobody ever talks about Elizabeth Banks in this movie, who really gives a really damn good dramatic performance in this. I mean, you know, she can be very funny, but she can also be very dramatic, too, and work very well with the material given to her. I mean, it's a really good-looking film, a good period piece film, a fun underdog sports story that actually is very well done. You can see why it was nominated for Best Picture, and was basically nominated for 7 Oscars and didn't win any of them, unfortunately. Which is a shame, because the movie deserves some recognition. It's a film that is very good. I mean, it's a film that really is engaging. It's a story that, granted, we've seen done to death so many times before, but the actors are what makes it work. It's a film that you really do get behind these characters and this horse, and it's shot beautifully, too. John Schwartzman does a very good job with the cinematography. It's just a great film. Not much more to say, man. Seabiscuit is just a film that, it's definitely one of the best films of the year, easily. It's a film that's very well done. I can't recommend it enough. Seabiscuit.
The holiday season. It's the perfect time of year to find the one you love.
Christmas is a time to do something about it.
Like what?
And tell them exactly how you feel.
You've got nothing to lose, and you'll always regret it if you don't.
Don't let the holidays go by without love, actually. Rated R.
I mean, a movie where just, it feels like a chick flick. It feels like a film that nobody outside of the female target audience could really get into, but it's a film that appeals to everybody. I mean, this is a film that is just so perfectly handled in the way that it does tell the story. You essentially have a series of little, and it's kind of like an anthology, sort of, but you have a cast that includes some of the biggest names around. I mean, let me just read the names off of here. Hugh Grant, Liam Neeson, Colin Firth, Laura Linney, Emma Thompson, Alan Rickman, Keira Knightley, Martine McCutcheon, Bill Nighy, Rowan Atkinson. That's just some of the names on here. There's names on here that I didn't even mention that are notable names, like Chiwetel Ejiofor, Andrew Lincoln, why can't I remember his name from The Walking Dead? Ah, God. I don't want to have to look it up. I don't want to have to look it up. Come on. It's gonna come in there, damn it. Rick Grimes. Good lord. I knew the name. I just couldn't remember it. Like, but yeah, he's in here too. Who else is in here? Liam Neeson's son. The girl that she falls in love with is actually Olivia Olsen from Phineas and Ferb. But you also have you've got January Jones, Alicia Cuthbert, Ivana Milcevic, Shannon Elizabeth, Martin Freeman. Did I mention Rowan Atkinson? No, I didn't. Rowan Atkinson's in here too. He doesn't have a whole lot to do, but his one scene is memorable. Rodrigo Santoro, Xerxes from 300 is in here. Thomas Sangster, Liam Neeson's kid. You've seen him in a bunch of stuff. He's Ferb on Phineas and Ferb. Like, he's also in Game of Thrones. He's in the Maze Runner movie. He's Billy Bob Thornton. There's just a phenomenal cast involved in this movie. I haven't even gotten to the actual plot of the film, which, like I said, it's an anthology film, kind of, where you delve into different aspects of love as shown through 10 separate stories, including a variety of individuals, many of them who are interlinked as the plot progresses. It begins 5 weeks before Christmas, as it's played out in a weekly countdown until the holiday, followed by an epilogue that takes place in the new year. And you could say that this kind of helped to launch the ensemble romantic comedies that led us to the lesser ones, like the Gary Marshall ones, Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve, Mother's Day, but unlike those pieces of shit, this is actually a smartly written, well-acted, and overall very romantic comedy. I mean, the ensemble cast in here just works so well together. All the chemistries and the stories that they have here are all perfectly handled very well. They don't fall into the typical romantic comedy cliches, and when they do, it's written very well. And that's what you get when you have a guy like Richard Curtis involved here. This is the guy that made great stuff like 4 Weddings and a Funeral, Bridget Jones's Diary, Notting Hill. This is a film that is just smartly written, well made, well acted, very believable. It could have easily been a disappointment. It could have easily been a film that just falls apart right from the get-go because there's just too many people getting involved in here. But when you have a talented writer like Richard Curtis, like, he keeps the chemistries all together. He keeps the balance together. It never feels like one story is going overboard. Everything just seems perfectly fit, and you end up being very satisfied with what you see in the film. It's a beautifully made film. It's a great movie you watch at Christmas time. Even at Valentine's Day, people watch it at Valentine's Day. I mean, yeah, I could even see that. Like, it's a film that really, it's made specifically for Christmas time, but you could watch it at any point in the year, and you would find so much value to it, regardless of what time of the year you watch it. I mean, what can I say? Hugh Grant said it best in the beginning of the film. Love Actually is all around, and all around, Love Actually is a really damn good movie. I don't think I need to say much more about it.
We come to it at last. Time magazine calls The Return of the King the film event of the millennium. And winner of the New York Film Critics Circle Award for Best Picture of the Year. The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, rated PG-13.
So, continuing the plot of the last movie, Frodo, Sam, and Gollum make their final way toward Mount Doom to destroy the One Ring, unaware of Gollum's true intentions, while Merry, Pippin, Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and their allies join forces against Sauron and his legions from Mordor. And, considering that everything that they were building up to with the first 2 movies has culminated into this, unlike the Matrix trilogy, this is one where everything just comes into play in the final film and creates the end to a pretty damn good trilogy of movies that got better and better with each passing film. And this is the culmination of it all, a masterpiece of a film that just really, I really don't have much more to say about this one that hasn't already been said already. It's a towering achievement for what Peter Jackson was able to accomplish. I mean, it's a movie with great action sequences, great visual effects, great production value. The performances are great. The scale is grand and epic. The direction is top-notch. The writing is great. The score is terrific. The costume design is great. The weight of the storyline is very good. The scope, the scale, the story, just everything I mentioned before, just not much more you can really add to it. For a film that's as long as this is and has as many endings as it does have, you feel like it's kind of earned, because at the time we thought this was indeed the last time we were going to see these characters again. We had no idea that Peter Jackson was going to eventually do the Hobbit movies after this, which I like those Hobbit movies enough, but they're nowhere near as good as what he did with the first time around with The Lord of the Rings, and they were well rewarded for this. I mean, this is one of the few films to ever win all of the nominations that it was nominated for at the Academy Awards. This won 11 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director Peter Jackson, which really is not surprising to do that, considering that it's it's tying with Ben-Hur and Titanic for the most Academy Award wins of all time. And again, it's hard not to see why. The effort that they put into this, the fact that New Line Cinema put their studio basically on the line for this to work, and it paid off in dividends. And then they sold off to Warner Brothers, which that still baffles me. Is that how do you lose all that money and you have to be debunked into Warner Brothers at that point 5 years after this comes out? It just does not make any sense. But at the time, it was considered a massive, massive success on their part. And yeah, there's really not much more I can add to this that hasn't already been said already with the other movies and what everybody else had said. It's a masterpiece, a classic film, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. It's about as good as you can get, and then some. So.
He doesn't fit in. That's all he said. So he may as well stand out. On September 12th, get ready. Get set. And get lost in one of the fall's most original films. I'm trying to organize a prison break. It's electrifying. Lost in translation, rated R.
I mean, just the fact that this movie starts off with a lovely shot of Scarlett Johansson's ass. I mean, no joke. This film literally starts off with a opening credit sequence where you see Scarlett Johansson in underwear with her ass facing the camera, and the title goes Lost in Translation. That's when you know you're in for a good movie. But other than that, though, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah, Bill Murray starring as a fading American movie star who's having a midlife crisis when he travels to Tokyo to promote Suntory whiskey. Then he befriends another estranged American named Charlotte, a young woman and a recent college graduate. You also have Giovanni Ribisi and Anna Faris in here, and this really is one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's not just because of the thing I just mentioned before, but the film is so brilliant. It's a brilliantly written love story that really doesn't feel like a love story at first, and it just works because of what Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson are capable of doing together in terms of acting. I mean, they work off each other so well in here. I mean, this is a film that literally shows you that Scarlett Johansson has a future in acting, and it definitely shows in this particular film. And like her chemistry with Bill Murray just works so well. But Bill Murray is so damn good in this movie too, and it hurts me not to think back to those times when Bill Murray could have won the Oscar for this. I mean, this is a film that was literally screaming for him to win an Oscar for Best Actor, but they gave it to Sean Penn. And I like Mystic River, but I'm sorry. If you're going to ask me to choose between Mystic River and Lost in Translation, Lost in Translation is going to win easily. I mean, it also has a lot of great shots of the city of Japan. It kind of reminds me of the Japanese equivalent to something like Before Sunrise, kind of. You have a relationship between these two different people, and you're following them throughout the course of the movie. And just like Before Sunrise, this is a film that just works so well because you've got these two great people working off each other. You've got this great backdrop of Japan. It's a really damn good movie that just really, every time I get a chance to watch it, I'm always glued to the TV because it's just like, it's such a really impressive film, and it has a nice ending to it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and really, it's hard not to see why. This is a film that is so brilliant. Sofia Coppola does a phenomenal job as the writer and director here. It's a movie that, like I said, should have gotten Bill Murray the Oscar, and unfortunately it didn't. Should have probably won Best Picture too, but the thing that won Best Picture, I can see why it won Best Picture, but it's just a film that works on so many levels. It's a brilliant film. I can't recommend this one enough. Lost in Translation, easily the best movie of the week, one of the best movies of the year.